All right, joined by my guy, Danny Marang. He's covering the Blazers for 1080 The Fan and the host of the Jack Ramsay Show. Danny, thank you so much for hopping on, man. Excited to talk about the Blazers now that the thing is already done?
Hey, thanks for having me. And it's God, I have to say it again. It's a new era. I've got to find a way to say that things have changed. I've written about it. I've talked about it ad nauseum. 11 years of Damian Lillard and his tenure here is now over, and now they are moving into. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's the Scoot Henderson era." It's like, well, it's kind of the in between era, because you can't have an era in your rookie year unless you're LeBron James. That's just kind of how this is going to work. Or Tim Duncan. You have to be so ungodly impactful that it's written in stone from day one. And I think Scoot's going to be tremendous, but he's still 19 years old and a point guard. So it's going to take a couple years to work the kinks out. But I am genuinely excited. I've already turned my brain off of caring about wins and losses. I am trying to currently educate the Portland fan bases that if you try to care about wins and losses this year, you are going to be a miserable human being. You will hate life and it will not be fun. Instead, care about development and the small wins on a night in January where you watch a young guy put something together one night and then forget how to do it in the very next game and then go do it all over again 14 more times. Because in Portland, and I know people want to say, you haven't won anything. You never won a title since 77. This is the first legitimate reset the Portland Trailblazers have had, ever. They fell into one in the Jailblazers era, but this is the first wholesale reset the organization has ever had. And that is very different for a fan base that is accustomed to winning. And they have been one of the 5 or 6 best franchises in league history in winning percentage for a very, very, very long time because they've never reset. So it's going to be an interesting process.
There's a lot of young talent on this roster, namely Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe and guys like that. Anfernee Simons is also still here, trying to figure out what the actual role is between those three. But there's also some awesome veterans on this team and guys that even if it's not going to be a great wins and losses season, like you can expect good performances from Jeremy Grant and DeAndre Ayton and Malcolm Brogdon and Robert Williams, and there some interesting faces. How do you think those guys are going to help maybe direct this rebuilding process and help the young guys along?
Well, Brogdon and Grant are going to be the guys that kind of, I think, are the pillars as far as the night in, night out, how to be pros. Like, I was in the locker room last night, and Brogdon has only been here for a little bit, and you just watch him walk around, and there's like this air of adulthood around him. Like, the deference to him already exists from the very young guys because he's the oldest player on the team at 30 years old. Yeah. Jeremy's 29. It was funny. I had him at media day. I'm like, you're not quite the oldest. He was like, oh, thank God. He's 29 years old. He just became a dad this summer. He got his $160 million deal. He's like, oh, man, I'm becoming old. But Brog's the oldest guy. Deandre Ayton is going to be a little bit interesting in the sense because he's a veteran, but this isn't a lottery pick redraft guy, a guy who was injured or flamed out on a team that needs to, kind of catch on somewhere else.
Sure.
For all of the, like, DeAndre Ayton has his flaws stuff, he's a career 17-11 on 60% shooting. Like, the guy isn't a slouch. It's that the production floor is quite high. And we've seen what it looks like when it's at its highest, quite literally backboning an NBA Finals caliber defense. Now, the stuff since then, not great. He's saying and doing all the right things here. There is, talking to folks in Phoenix and, being able to talk to DA myself, there is a burden that has been lifted off his shoulders right now. How long does that last? Does it last? Does it change? Chauncey Billups is saying all the right things as far as, like, we're going to empower him. We're going to let him do stuff. DA said last night they're going to let him take some threes and make some decisions on short rolls and be a playmaker and, like, be more focal point of the offense, not just, like, relegated to X, if X, then Y.
Sure.
And that seems to really, like, reinforce some stuff behind it. So that's gonna be an interesting process. And then Time Lord Robert Williams III, he banged knees with Jeremy Grant pretty bad in practice the other day. So they're holding him out because obviously he's got injury concerns to begin with. Unfortunately, I saw him in practice, and he has the exact same knee brace that I do, and that scares me.
Yeah, that's not a great sign there, Danny.
No, it's not. I was like, oh no, Rob, not you too. But he's going to add a level of professionalism to the defense when DA is not on the floor. That I think is going to be huge for them. But yeah, otherwise, outside of those guys, number one, Anfernee Simons at 24 years old, is the longest tenured Blazer. He is the only Blazer on this team that remains who was drafted by Neil Olshey.
Oh, wow.
Already. That is how clean the slate is. This is an entirely different team across the board. So it quite literally is a new era. And they're probably going to finish the season when you talk about weighted age, guys who get real minutes. This is probably going to be if not the youngest, the second or third youngest team in the league when you're talking about minutes played.
And there's some good to that. This team will benefit from that in the long term. As a result, you're getting a guy like Scoot Henderson as much of a runway as possible. Now, that can go well and it can go poorly. It's going to depend on the player, but it does seem like Scoot is that dude, and it does seem like that he's an exciting guy to try to build around. I mean, here in Denver, go from Emmanuel Mudiay to Jamal Murray as in terms of young guys that you want to build around, and there was a distinct difference between how they handled it and how they kind of handled that spotlight and that pressure. Scoot seems like that guy, though. Like he walks around in the building and he clearly is that dude.
Yeah, and they're trying to get him leadership opportunities, not just in the sense of being front and center in the camera and on the season tickets, and it's setting team dinners and just leadership stuff that the stuff that actually matters.
Right.
Not all the rah-rah stuff. But he has to earn all of it. He's not being given anything. As it stands right now, the offense, the bones of the offense, the foundation of this franchise right now is going to be built on Anfernee Simons and Deandre Ayton. If you watch the game last night they played against the Phoenix Suns, the Blazers run early spread pick and roll with DA and Ant, and they throw a trap out at 30 feet at Simons. There's not a team in the league that's doing that on Scoot Henderson in the first 4 months of the season. They're going to under everything, and they're going to show that they're going to make him prove that he can do things. And so what the Blazers are going to do is they're going to take DA and use that as a foundation for their team. And so, and I've kind of likened it to baseball in the sense of they're going to Barry Bonds him, where they're going to be the Ant and DA are going to be the Barry Bonds. They're going to be the cleanup behind him, and they're going to protect him in the order.
Sure.
So they're going to put DA in front of him, and then he's going to hit, and then an Ant behind him. Ant is going to be the table set. He's going to be the guy who protects Scoot so that it is easier for him to get acclimated to be a leader. And so the entirety of the burden of the franchise doesn't fall on his 19-year-old bricked out shoulders. And by the way, he is built like an NFL running back. If you are not seeing things wrong, that is Maurice Jones-Drew handling the rock in the middle of the floor. The dude is jacked. Just if he's one of those guys who's remember LeBron coming in the league and he's big for a kid. Now we look at LeBron and go, LeBron was skinny as a kid because you have it's skewed. If Scoot gets his man body at 24, 25 and he gets any bigger, you're just going to be like, why is Marshawn Lynch running the offense? It's what is happening here? His superpower. Everybody's already kind of compared him to Westbrook and Ja and Rose. He's not that level of athlete. He's bursty. Don't get him wrong. His superpower is his balance. He's never off balance. It happened last night. Nobody really saw it because it's a preseason game, and Shaedon Sharpe threw a pass to him that was too far out, and he went up. I'd use a Denver wide receiver to mention here, but you guys don't have any.
Not so I'm going to
go. Sorry, Broncos fans. I'm a Raiders. He went up and high pointed it Calvin Johnson.
Yeah.
Like, falling away. It was a bad pass. He just, one hand stuck his giant dinner plate paw up in the air, falling backwards midair, grabs the ball and redirects it, rips it 20 feet cross court to Jeremy Grant, and then gently lands on the floor. Jeremy missed the three, of which I accosted him for that, because you can't have a play make like that and miss the shot. But the play itself was so obscene. The body control was so obscene to not only get to the ball, to catch the ball, to redirect in midair and while falling down, throw the ball with accuracy to Grant. The social media manager sits right next to me in media row, and we both turned and did the squirrel, just look at each other like, oh my God, did you just see what happened?
Content.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He looks at me, he goes, God, Jeremy. But like, he's been bumped already, like on a few drives where he should have gone over, and there's zero change. He's so strong and so under control. You're going to see him make plays that you go, that's not normal. But he's also had 6 turnovers last night, because for the first time in his life, he's playing against guys that are better than him. And so there's going to be this constant contrast all season long. But that's what's going to make the season fun.
And it should be fun. And like, what I'm imagining in my head is this team being such a great, interesting league pass darling for a lot of people, because they get to see Scoot Henderson, they get to see Shaedon Sharpe jump out of the gym. You get to check in on DeAndre Ayton. You get to see, hey, what if they play Ayton and Robert Williams together? How's that going to look? And things like that. Like, there's some intrigue to this group, and I think that watching the early development of Scoot Henderson will be a lot of fun for a lot of people, as well as Anfernee Simons and Shaedon Sharpe, of course. But like you said, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be slow, and it's going to take some time. So I've got this team winning 26 games. I'm not like, it's going to be pretty low in terms of the actual number. You know what? I gave them credit for having a strong front court.
I went 24, so
hey, I mean,
people here are mad at me, and I'm like, really? Like, are you looking around the Western Conference right now? Like, I think just it has nothing to do with, like, this Blazers team is not going to be like process 76ers bad. But the only team in the league that is going to be dog water are the Wizards.
Yeah.
That's it. And you only play them twice. So, okay, you got 2 wins this year. Where are you getting the other 24?
You get to play the Eastern Conference 30 times if you're the Blazers. So
yeah, but even at the bottom of the East, like even the younger teams, even the Magic, they're going to make a leap. Like,
sure, yeah.
The Hawks is as much as Trae Young is frustrating, Quinn Snyder is going to have them playing good basketball. Like, you run through stuff. The Pistons, even though all they have is guys who can't shoot at 6'5" and guys who can't shoot at 7 foot, they have a ton of athletes. And like, it's gonna, like, if Cade can be what people think Cade can be, they're just going to be a weird duck to play against. And as much as I think Dylan Brooks is the most frustrating thing to watch in the entire NBA, Fred VanVleet is going to have a semblance of professionalism with that team. And people are Amen Thompson is tremendous.
He's good. He's really good.
He's going to be, like, everybody is talking, and they should be, about Scoot, Wemby, and Chet. Amen Thompson is probably the next guy in that group, and he's not that far behind them. And then also Jabari Smith Jr. remembered how to shoot.
Sure.
So Houston's going to have players. Even though they're young as hell, they're also going to be frisky. And San Antonio, like, I know they're young, but we're recording this as Wemby wrapped up playing a half of basketball where he broke the universe. And it's just like, yeah, they're gonna be like, they're not gonna be a great team, but who wants to be the team to deal with that on game 5 of a 7-game road trip? Like, you're doing that Texas trip and you're like, oh God, we have a home and home against Wemby. Like, I don't want to deal with this crap 2 nights in a row. Like,
right.
The West is such a bloodbath that I just don't see more than two teams winning 50 games, and everybody's going to beat the hell out of each other. And Portland's going to sneak up on some teams here or there because they're geographically isolated at the end of a road trip, and you're going to forget that, oh crap, they have 5 dudes that are under 25 years old that are going to run you ragged at the end of a road trip, and they're going to catch a couple games here or there, and then they're going to do what they did last night against Phoenix, where they went 40-37 in the first quarter and then 39-15 in the second, because they're all kids.
That's going to happen, and I'm not here to sit here and like turn shit into lilies or whatever the phrase is that you want to call it here. But what I will say is that I do think that this team, like you said, they're going to surprise a couple of teams here or there. And playing at home, and you get to have a guy like Scoot Henderson and watching the developments in front of your eyes. I do think that the front court is going to help out a lot when you can at least plug in Jeremy Grant and DeAndre Ayton every single night and say, yeah, that's
very professional.
It's going to be your 4 and your 5. And if you're Scoot, like you can rely on that for sure. So I do think that while you never really bet on rookie point guards and their teams to go on the over for a lot of these cases, like I'm not exactly doing that either, but I think the 26 seems kind of that's a fair number.
No, it is. I'm mostly joking. Like I'm not taking the over. I joked after the game last night where it's like, so what do you think? I go, I'm adjusting my win total down to. That's what I said following last night's game. I was like, really? And I was like, yeah, it's exactly what I thought was going to happen. And it very much was there on display. Like you saw kind of the summation of the season in the first half where it was like, yeah, they're competitive in a quarter and they're game and they're frisky and they've got some stuff. They're going to get out in transition and Ant's going to burn you for 30 points and DA is going to hit you for like 22 and 11. And then the second unit's going to get in there and Malcolm Brogdon's going to murder you. And then the next time they go through their rotation in the third quarter, they're going to score 6 points and they're going to get smoked in a quarter. And the veteran team's going to be like, all right, pull the starters. And then it's going to get a little bit closer as both benches kind of figure things out. But like the Blazers don't want to win games.
Right.
Like they're not, this is an evaluation year. And if we're being honest, they're sitting there probably looking at Cooper Flagg in 2 years like, he look good in Portland. You know, like that's the kind of world that they're in right now. It's like, as much as JG makes sense in Portland right now, do I think he's here for the long haul? Hell no. I love the guy. Great dude. Not many guys I'd rather talk to in basketball than Jeremy Grant. But do I think he's going to be a Portland lifer? No. Come on, let's be real.
Last thing I'll leave you with then. What does success actually look like for this team? What is the vision for this year if you had your druthers?
It's growth. I have turned my brain off for wins and losses. It is entirely growth. If people were like, man, did you get frustrated with last night's game? I'm like, no, not one bit, because I have been in competitive mode for 11 years. I have not got to watch a developmental team in a decade plus. So I am like, hey, let's explore this. Try this. My frustrations are going to come when they don't get weird enough. Like that's like, I'm gonna get in like January. I'm gonna be in Chauncey like, hey, bringing him lineup data. Like, hey, have you tried this? You want to try? I want to see what this looks like. Kind of throw me out of his office, kind of a deal. Like that's what it is for me. That's success for me. Is like, if the thing that I asked Chauncey Tuesday night when they took on the New Zealand Breakers pre-game, I was like, so how do you measure success this season? How do you? What are the mile markers? And he's like, it's different with this team.
Sure.
Because right now, like, he's like, I'm going back to the basics. And he's like, it's a little tedious. And he didn't mean it like disrespectfully. He's like, I have to remember that this is not Damian Lillard and Jeremy Grant. Like, it's not Norman Powell. It's not CJ McCollum. It's like, it's not a group of professional veteran players. It's mostly kids. Like, as good as Scoot is going to be, Damian Lillard came into the league as a rookie, as the leading scorer in the country, who was the best pick and roll point guard scorer we'd ever seen. Nobody had a question. Can Damian Lillard effectively run an offense from day one? No, we didn't have that question. We don't have that question per se with Scoot in the sense of like, is he going to be good? Because everybody believes he's going to be. But where is he at on the scale? Because he's 19 as opposed to 22 or 23 years old like Dave. And so, like, where are you now? Where are you in January, and where do you end in April? And that's as long as the growth is there, and it's not linear. It's not measured in wins and losses. It's measured in what did you get out of the season. You put in X, what is your output? What is your Y? And if the output is we know who we want, like DA is going to be the guy that's going to anchor this team. Like, we found the big. Like this is the like we've brought back the potential of the number 1 overall pick. Okay, cool. They've traded Malcolm Brogdon and Jeremy Grant for first round picks or additional young guys. What and how do they fit into this whole thing? Like it's this entire year is evaluation. It's nothing more than evaluation. When we get into next summer and you're kind of looking around like, hey, they need some more playmaking. Hey, they need some more shooting. Like that's fine. But for this year, it's not roll the ball out and play because that's the G League. It's foundational structure. And as long as they get out of this season with growth and foundational structure, it's a successful year. And let me tell you, it's going to be so much more fun to cover. Like it genuinely is. Just hands off, like, oh, this is fun. just sit back and watch basketball.
It's going to be good, man. Hey, you guys have had a lot of pressure on you, especially over the course of this summer. So I am glad that you get to sit here and kind of just enjoy life a little bit with this team and be able to watch it and have a little bit more just general fun with watching this team, because they should be fun. And this is going to be a great group to enjoy throughout the year. And like I said, League Pass darlings in a lot of different ways, and you'll be having some great moments for sure. I have zero doubt of it at all. He is Danny Marang, covering the Blazers for 1080 The Fan, as well as the Jack Ramsay Show. Thank you so much, Danny, for hopping on. I really do genuinely appreciate it, and good luck covering the Blazers this year.
Appreciate it, brother. Anytime.